Hello everyone, Marianne from Revealing Light Tarot. How are we all today? Wherever you are in the world when you're watching, a huge shout out to you. It's a pretty overcast Sunday morning here in Ausland today. I have my cacao and there's a little bit of pumpkin spices that I've mixed up to put in with it. And all round, it's just a really nice drink. But I do have the light on above me, so because it's just a little bit dark to read. So I hope that you have your cup of tea, cup of cacao, cup of coffee, drink whatever with you during this reading and just relax, because that's the purpose of this reading. I want to look at the Kyle Rittenhouse went to a protest with an AR-15, is it machine gun, type of machine gun in America. There was what I would consider a very he appeared apparently biased. Things were done during the trial that, that we haven't really seen too often. I mean, young Kyle became a hero of the far right. He gunned down and took the life of two people and badly injured a third. His mother drove him to Kenosha, the city where there was protests following the gunning down of a Black Life and Black Lives Matters protests. Dropped him off, took him across from one state to the next. I don't want to go through it all again because it's pretty upsetting. I didn't read on Rittenhouse. There's just something about court cases, unless they're unless there's someone like the ex-president, that I really prefer to leave in the court's hands. But I have to say that throughout that trial, from here in Australia, I was just gobsmacked. The trial judge berating the prosecution, almost like he was a hostile witness. I mean, it was absolutely bizarre. At one point, he made a racist comment against Asians, something about ordering lunch out from a slow boat. You get it, don't you? As I said, Kyle was allowed to pull out the jury members from a hat. Numbers? I mean, really? And then in the directions to the jury, the judge gave them a very limited scope. So I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at the verdict that was handed down. It was, like the chips were so stacked against justice for those boys that died. Now, as I understand that, I was following that story at the beginning. He came with the armed to those protests. They group could see that he was armed, and they wanted to disarm the vigilante with the gun. And I think one of them had skateboards. I mean, if you look at the passed over boys that had their life cut short by this person with a machine gun in a place he shouldn't have been, this vigilante, there's no justice for them. So the thing I want to say about that is this. Kyle Rittenhouse will face a higher law than that judge could ever provide. He will have to face what is done for taking 2 lives and injuring a third. In this life, I would suspect, and in the next. So let it go. Let the upset go. I'm going to pull some cards on it as well after I have a sip of my cacao. Again, pause this video and go and get yourself a nice relaxing cup or drink of something. And we'll pull some cards on what we have, why did this happen, what we have to learn, because it coincides in Australia with some with protests, anti-vaccination protests. And again, I want to say up front, I believe that there is room for conscientious objection. But what there is not room for is violent demonstrations from protests that have really been hijacked by the same fascist type of anarchist elements that we see in America. And I really want to make that plain. Protesting is our right. Violently protesting, violently inciting mobs toward or extremists, knowing the climate that we're in. In Melbourne, they brought the hangman nooses. Again, if you look at the insurrection at the Capitol, where how many people died? 4 people died there, including a police officer. Police officers' eyes gouged out, fingers mutilated, horrible things. Women protesting, trampled over. So not just police officers killed and maimed, but protesters killed and maimed. And the inciting of the fascist elements in politics. We are in really, I guess, shaky ground. Really, we are. And, if you look over into Europe and other places around the world where governments are trying to introduce lockdowns again in a 4th wave, including for, in countries where they have, late 60s, 70% double vaccination, you'll see riots and protesting. So COVID's brought more than just change of lifestyle for everybody, loss of freedoms for others, the question around what right has government got to come in and force me to have a vaccination. All of those questions, it's like a tinderbox. You throw a match. And then we have, will the Rittenhouse case create, empower vigilantes? It is, what can I say? So, knowing that we are all responsible for our own actions, knowing that, karma can be in real time. We don't know what is in store for Kyle Rittenhouse in the future. Whether he will play into this circus, this fascist circus that plays out in particularly in America, but also in other Western democracies, the politicking of it. Even people on the right, not the extreme right, are turning off from this extreme right fascist type of energy. Anyway, we all have the responsibility to choose how we're going, what's going to come out of our mouth. No one forces us to say what we say on Facebook or to our family or friends or, we can be a peacemaker or we can be something else. What do we need to learn from the Rittenhouse and other riots, fires, setting fire to public property, violence in the streets, gallows at protests, vigilantes at, shooting some young dude with a skateboard, for God's sake. What have we got to learn from all of that? So we've got creation, and this comes back to what I was saying here. What are we creating? What are you going to create? At times like this, I feel that it is right down to the individual. And I was thinking before I started pulling on this, intuitively I feel that more and more we will move into communities of interest, communities of like-minded, unity at this time may not be possible, but being around those that even satisfy your need for peace and harmony and equilibrium, that might be where you gravitate toward. The choices, what are you creating, and the choices are yours. We always have power. We always have power. Wisdom, absolutely, 22, wisdom. That's an angelic number. So we've got 39, which is 12, breaking down to 3, 1, and 2. So unity is possible, but unity is possible only with those that you resonate with. And I think this is where we kind of make the mistake. You cannot lead a horse to water if it doesn't want to drink. Those people who are rioting in the Netherlands, they shouldn't be forced to the table with vaccinations. If they don't want to be vaccinated, let them go. Governments are trying to stop health systems from collapsing. Governments are trying to stop the financial drain also on public systems that can't take the weight of all of this. But I think it's time for our leaders to get a little bit creative. To think outside the square, to think about more than just one solution. In many ways, you can't do things in the old way. And there has to be compromise. Will. So where is your will? And that is a really important question for those in charge. What are you trying to achieve? What do you want to achieve? Are you using right use of will, or are you imposing your will on someone else? And each of us have that question to ask ourselves. What's at the base of the pack here? Faith. Well, thankfully, Spirit has given us something to hang on to, and this is probably where we can unify, that we all want a better world for our children. We all want, well, not we all, but most of us want to be living in a society, a benign society, a society that nurtures, a society that creates, a society that allows the best out of all of us. There are a lot of 3s and 1s. If you look at these two cards, we've got 31 and 13 reversed. So there's a mirror happening here. Faith that the light will prevail. And that's what I got when I opened up for this reading. Normally I get light beings with hands, almost like healing hands coming down. This time I got the light with hands going up, human hands, groups. We all want that faith. And it's interesting, that's, I've got a screensaver on, and that's where the screen blacked out. We've got to have faith that the light will prevail. I just get a sense that this isn't going to be solved this year or next year or the year after that. This is an evolution, and evolutions take time. Now I want to pull from the Spiral Tarot of the Mystic Spiral. Tarot of the Mystic Spiral. It's a deck I haven't used for a while, so bear with me. I've got a lot of decks, but I thought I would just bring this out because it talks about energy. And we've got the Death card coming out, the Grim Reaper. In so many ways, so many things are ending. And yes, people are dying of COVID. And old systems are ending. The death of those 2 boys in Kenosha, the Grim Reaper, showing up what is ending in all its all its Scorpio energy. Its myriad of forms, death is showing up. Okay, so Kyle Rittenhouse, what do we need to learn? What do we need to learn from the acquittal of Kyle Rittenhouse, the vigilante? What do we need to learn from this? What can we take away from it? What are the key things that we can take away from it? Kyle Rittenhouse. So we have here the Queen of Pentacles. She's kind of like an angry queen here. This is around stability. It's also around the Queen brings forward stability by having enough food to put on the table, enough of everything. She brings forward stability through nurturing. This is earth energy. The Queen of Pentacles is the signifier card, stability or lack of it. And we've got the Sun. Yeah, the Sun is crossing that Queen of Pentacles. I think Kyle Rittenhouse came from, I'm not sure of his background, but it's not a wealthy background. There's so much inequality here. There's so much instability. Fire, it's interesting that in the Netherlands they're setting, and other places, Vienna, in Austria, they're setting fire to property. That is burning things down, burning structures, government structures down. They're the signifier cards. What is the foundation of the reading is the Hanged Man. In this card, it's more than just that he's in trance. I mean, there's storm clouds here, and he's almost hanging upside down to see where the stability is. So this is, of course, people making choices. I get back to what I spoke about at the beginning of this reading. The King of Cups, and we have Leonardo da Vinci's image here, creating something. What are we creating? But that's in the past, this nurturing. It almost feels like anarchy is what I feel. The Ten of Pentacles crowning this reading. This is, almost like a Roman theme, and the pentacles are falling down the steps. Legacies, money, the goat, Aries. Because you can't but lose from a society that is not stable. Three of Pentacles. I think, I said this before, people will go for those that are pretty centre, leaders that are pretty much in the centre, because otherwise you can't bring along the other side. And maybe that's where we'll come out, somebody that is open, listening to everyone. The Five of Pentacles in the immediate future is loss, and this is, interesting. The loss is monetary loss. 8, of course, is I think the Chinese view the numeral 8 as very lucky, entrepreneurial, business type. But this is loss, and then depicted by, what you would think would be mice running round a wheel. But these are actually bugs, scorpions, spider type things that are carrying pentacles. So, there's a lot at stake here, and I'm getting earth energy. I'm getting pentacles. I'm getting greed. I'm getting people forced into doing things because they haven't got enough. The Nine of Swords, the unicorn being slaughtered? What have we got to learn? The marauding crowds. I understand that a Tucker Carlson film crew was with Kyle Rittenhouse and his defence team right throughout that trial. 2 people lost their lives to a vigilante's gun. Nobody is really talking about, I think one of them had a handgun. I don't think the other 2 were armed. Nobody is talking about how can somebody shoot someone else who isn't armed, who's trying to disarm them because they're afraid for their lives. A person who's come there looking for violence, crossed state lines. We've got something precious is being slaughtered here, and there's a lot of anxiety around it. Behind here we have protesting. And again, I'm just getting this feeling of society being destabilized, and the environment around is moderation. So here might be where we come to the faith that enough of us, regardless of what our political persuasion is or what our vaccination status is, or want peace and moderation. And leaders need to understand that. In the hopes and fears, we have the Fibonacci spiral, the King of Wands. Bravery and courage at this time is what is needed to preserve, maintain life. But not all lives will be preserved. We have the final outcome is the Ten of Cups. There's a victorious... These cards are set in the Roman Empire. We all know what happened to the Roman Empire. And that's the feeling that I get here. Excesses. Corruption. The Ten of Cups, of course, is about love. So what is the outcome? Through these death in all its forms, the Grim Reaper, we get to make choices. The Tower card, through adversity and breaking down those structures, we get to make choices. Each and every one of us gets to have a say in what we manifest. The Magician energy. Almost like we took ourselves to this point. I know that's really hard to swallow, but what have we learnt? What have we learnt? And if we come up short there, then that's your answer as to how we got here. What's at the base of the pack? We've got the Fool card, the New Beginnings, and the Hierophant. Our higher selves. Again, those hands reaching up to the light. And the Nine of Wands. Boundaries. In order to get that stability back, we have to put those dominions, almost powerful boundaries around those that aren't quite there yet, in whatever way that is, in order to create our own dominions. So I do feel more and more that we will gravitate toward those smaller communities of interest when the bigger ones just don't fail us, or that fail us in some way. And that this is how individualism is best expressed in like-minded communities of interest. Now, that is what we have to learn. Let's see if there will be a rise at a more practical level. Will this empower vigilantes, and where will that take us? And this is not just in the US, because we've had an author that just has released a QAnon book tracking its rise in Australia, and it took its cues. It has particular influences from the US. So let's have a look at vigilantes. In Australia, we don't have guns. You have to have a license to have a gun, and yet to meet that license, you have to meet certain criteria. You have to be a farmer or carry livestock to protect your livestock. If you're a sports shooter, and we have really, really strong rules around putting a gun in anybody's hands. So let's have a look. Will this encouraging? But there are other forms of violence. Encourage vigilantism. There's 4 of Pentacles. A lot of people are insecure, superstitious almost. And the Knave of Wands. Not a nice image, but the Knave has something in his hands. The crowing of the rooster. Heeding a call, perhaps. Okay, will this encourage more vigilantism? Will this encourage more vigilantism? 3 of Cups. Circles of support coming together. Perhaps Franklin, Crick and Watson. Perhaps groups of vigilantes coming together. I guess that's armed militias, isn't it? The High Priestess makes an appearance yet again. So the High Priestess, talks about the something that isn't yet in form. So the appearance of 3 scholars in this card, and the High Priestess talking about something in the subconscious, while yes, plans are fermenting for violence, at the other end of the scale, the more destabilization, the more anarchy. We need to remember that the majority want moderation and peace. We've got the Hermit card, isolation, introspection and reflection. 5 of Pentacles in the past. We've got this loss, the loss card, but it is in the past. So 9 of Swords, the anxiety card, is crowning this reading. In the immediate future, we have the 7 of Cups. A lot of people will take this will be confused by this ruling. This is Piscean energy. It's also, being deluded, not making right choices, not being able to see clearly the choices that they are making. Doesn't mean justice goes out the window. This doesn't, I don't get the feeling that there's a real precedence here. I get more the feeling that the loved ones of those who have had their lives taken away in Australia, even if that didn't meet the murder charge, we would have had manslaughter. Or I don't know what your equivalent is in America. You cannot take someone's life, and it's very rare that you walk free in the circumstances. Well, in Australia, they just wouldn't walk free in those circumstances. They would have received some sentence. So this is going to cloud people's reasoning. The King of Swords. The King of Swords is, is the law. Is the law. But look at the image here. Look at the image here, the taking of a life. And the 3 of Swords, heartbreak and loss. There's so much. It's an outpouring on this one. And there's, so much fear. Yes, people are going to take up arms. Could be from both sides as well. The 10 of Pentacles in the hopes and fears. The Pentacles rolling down the steps. The Aries, Chiron in Aries. The wound, the great wound. And we've got the Ten of Cups as the outcome card here. Ten of Cups clarified by the Nine of Cups. So, even though people are anxious about this, even though there will be, in the shorter term, people that are deluded by that result and think that they can get away with everything, this is telling me they can't. They won't. And the Four of Swords. Kneeling at the... So what I see is the stories, the backstories now come out around these two lives that were lost. Rittenhouse might play to Tucker Carlson, but we all know the truth, don't we? We all know the truth that two lives were taken, and that the far right and fascist elements of society will even stoop to turning this into ratings. The Ten of Swords, downfall. The Five of Cups, death, loss, passing over, and defending oneself. And we've got the Eight of Swords. People have a decision to make. They have a decision to make which way they go. And very much we do gravitate, or will be gravitating toward those smaller communities of like-mindedness, so that we can express ourselves individually. People are getting tired of violence, tired of destabilization. If militias are malicious, think this is a free-for-all, they will be prosecuted. That's what that reading is telling me. All right, I'm going to leave it there. That was long. That took from the heart. I'm going to go, although we have an infinite heart, don't we? Because it just keeps going and going. But I'm going to restore my physical body with my cacao and get on with my Sunday. I hope you enjoyed that reading. Bye for now.